Learn a lot from what you're here to do.
So what you have to do is fight the unions.
Well, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. So how does Pioneer propose we fix this? We'd like to see the current T board members. We just think it hasn't worked. You know, they weren't looking at maintenance costs. They let the unfunded liabilities go up, operating costs. They didn't have snow plans in place that were reasonable. It's just time to start fresh or something new. We think that we should have like a soft receivership where we have a finance control board in place for a temporary period of time, 3 or 4 years, with very defined goals of what they have to do. You know, they have to look at looking at things that are cost killers, like the Pacheco law, where you can't outsource and you can't get competitive bidding in. So you know your maintenance costs can go up. You know,
is that like when they took over Detroit? You mean, and they had a...
I think that was a little more than what we would ask for, because in Detroit they were able to just stop the contract and start fresh. We don't think that that's going to be feasible at all in Massachusetts. We're not asking.
That was bankruptcy for all intents and purposes.
Right.
They don't have the funds to litigation.
So they are bankrupt.
So that's a good start.
And we think what we should do is make this board would be responsible for making sure there's no more expansion projects until what we have is working, until it's in good state of good repair. We know it's going to cost money to get it in a state of good repair. We also think that because of all those mitigation projects that were foisted on the T, it left a big hole in their capital structure. It helped with the debt, but it left a hole in its capital structure because a lot of the debt related to that refinance. You can't say that this bond relates to big. You just can't do that. But we think that around $1.8 billion worth of debt and debt service related to that should be assumed by the state over time, provided that the Finance Control Board meets certain criteria. First, get an audit of all the equipment, rank them in order of what's going to make the T run the best, what really needs to happen, use the money that's freed up from the operating budget from the state funding its debt service, a portion of its debt service, make sure that goes to fixing and reducing the deferred maintenance so the T runs. And we need to have some fresh eyes looking at it. Take a look at recent procurements, maybe go back on recent procurements, basically start from scratch, and fix it with an idea of we're going to make these trains run, and we're going to do it on budget.
Would there ever be a possibility to make the T in certain areas smaller than it is?
Well, that's another thing. Like looking at one of the issues like the buses.
At least for some period of time.
Yeah, but you can even look at that's
Until it's healthy
so it's working. Like,
and making money.
buses is a good way to do that. Buses, there are some lines, some routes that don't have many passengers on them. But they still have the big truck. You've seen the buses go, and there's like one person on it. Maybe for those outlier routes, rather than having the T operate them, they can contract out with private firms and let them manage it, and then they can determine what the routes are.
School buses certainly have room on them. I have 3 or 4 down my street, and there's 1 kid on each bus.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue. School buses. It always happens so much. But there's ways to look at it and say what makes sense. There's a way of looking at. You look at the ride. The ride, the paratransit. The ride costs about $49 per trip. $49 on average.
Per person on the trip?
Per trip. It's usually one person. No, the average.
Call them a cab.
The average, I don't know how this works, but I think it averages 0.89 persons per trip.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not a lot of people. So what the Medicaid does, because they have paratransit facilities too, more than the T. T has about 2 million rides a year. The Medicaid program has over 3 million rides a year. They're able to do it at $17 a trip. They have like brokerage services. The broker come out and try to competitively bid to have it done.
Sure.
And it's much more efficient. So there's ways to look at it to try to save costs along those lines. Privatize, look at the ride, take a look at the...
Those are 2 words I never thought I'd hear in the same sentence. Medicaid and efficient.
Yeah, it works.
You surprise me all the time, Mary.
But many other agencies across the country use that type of model rather than the model that we use.
So what is this report that you just, is this a suggestion, or is this report written by Pioneer? Is it
It'll be coming out.
Oh, it's coming?
Coming out.
Okay, good.
Now, do you feel that the ride is efficient?
No.
No, it's less than $49.
$49.
No.
Versus 17.
Versus 17,
You know, I have a friend that they own the ride. Now, first of all, they are not allowed to make any comment about people who call them.
It's very strict.
And they have people call them, and there'll be the wife who has the doctor's certificate, and her husband, and another couple, and they go into Boston, and they go to the theater. I think it's $4 a person. And then after the theater and dinner, the ride picks them up and takes them home.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
So is it,
And they cannot question it.
how do you get on the ride? Do you get is that a doctor?
It's supposed to be, I think, it's supposed to be a doctor.
You have to go in the office.
I broke my leg over 20 years ago, and I confess, in a hiking and a camping accident, and I confess that I used the ride for several months, and it was terribly inefficient at the time. I mean, it would I was going into work downtown, and if they were rarely on time, and then it would break down like a gas pipe. And he, at one time it broke down, the guy asked me to sit in the steering wheel, and while he pushed it to the side. Your tax dollars.
Mike, now that you're a Republican, you're going to reimburse the taxpayers. Just checking.
My wife is a paraplegic. She uses a wheelchair. Now, she drives her own car, and she commutes into work via the T, the dilapidated Orange Line, which is, that T system, by the way, has only recently become remotely accessible, meaning elevators that go down to the platforms that don't break down for 6 months. And she hates the ride. One of the last times she used it during the snowstorms, she had a ride scheduled to take her from downtown to home at 4:45. It showed up at 5:30. She got home at 8 o'clock. So she hates the ride. And yet, there are times she has absolutely no choice but to use it. There are just times. It doesn't take a lot of snow to make it impossible for a paraplegic to get down to the end of the street, much less on a bus or drive a car. So I'm just saying there are a large number of people for whom the ride is absolutely indispensable.
I think it's better, it's not to get rid of the ride, it's to look at it to make it more efficient. Make it more efficient.
It's a weird system. There's like a divided contract system, you know. There's it's sliced up like a pie.
There's 3 operators that really have to talk about the area.
Is there a way
So you mentioned doing called a soft receivership.
Yeah.
So that, as opposed to, say, a full receivership.
That's like in a
or
bankruptcy. Yeah.
Bankruptcy. So in a soft receivership, I assume you wouldn't be able to reject contracts. Or
Not,
would you?
recent procurements, I don't think you go back and break all contracts.
Okay, so why not do a bankruptcy? You think it's politically
I think it'd be hard to do.
impossible?
I think it'd be hard to do. And there's also debts, there's also bondholders that you have to be aware of. You know, but right now the T has actually a decent bond rating.
Detroit did it.
Right. I don't think we're quite at that point. I think we could try something before that. Certainly, and hopefully it will work. But, I mean, right now the bond ratings are pretty decent, and that's because we get so much state funding. But Chelsea, City of Chelsea, and Springfield went through receiverships similar to this type. And they came out with better bond ratings. And did well. He gets some federal funding. But we're finding that there's some other agencies that get a lot more than we do from other states. We get some federal for various projects, but some get a lot more for operating costs.
Is the governor in line? She can see me.
Okay.
I think he's waiting to get the full panel report, and then he's going to make it.
It's supposed to come out later this week.
Mary?
Before we take more questions, could I just make one more brief announcement, please?
No.
But I'm the chairman, so I'm going to. This is a free event, but we'll still ask for your voluntary contribution to the March 20 Republican Committee. As I said, we have an ambitious agenda this year to build GOP support in the Parkway. Our treasurer, Isabella Lockwood, who can raise her hand, please, will be glad to help you contribute generously on your way out. So thank you all for coming, and we're in no rush. And thank you for your generosity. And I have a question